imagine we live in a world where there's no Saddam, where there's no Islamic Republic. Cuba is not communist anymore. Venezuela is basically now cooperating with the United States, and we have removed Hezbollah and Hamas are not there anymore. And yeah, I mean, this is going to and and Russia has been for decade after decades of war. Russia has now become weaker and weaker. North Korea will become only relevant in their area of the planet, and China is, still growing, but with at such a pace that is much slower than United States, for eventually the US's dominance as a forever forever superpower is all but guaranteed, right? I mean, that's amazing. Like, I mean, all of this, a world without Saddam is so much better than a world with Saddam. So yes, it was difficult for a couple of years in the beginning, but I think eventually it worked that way. I mean, now that the Islamic Republic is falling as well, this whole if Saddam was in power and the Islamic Republic fell, this area will still not be stable, right? This still will not be stable. Now, without Saddam and the Islamic Republic, we will finally could have eventually a stable Middle East. Jeffrey?
So the reason the calculations and underwrote the United States led military intervention into Iraq to remove Saddam Hussein stem from two main observations and conclusions. One is the operational impact of global socioeconomic and technological trends that I keep hammering home, which minimize the transaction costs regarding information, or that an actor needs to make significant impact on the world system. The scope of that impact no longer stays local. The time you have between an actor plans a course of action and implements that course of action been reduced. You have no warning time, and the time between when an actor initiates a course of action and the impact of that action reaches its maximum point of impact has been reduced. So you have no response time, right? People think that, oh, 9/11 changed the world. Incorrect. The terrorist attack of September 11th illustrated in a very brutal way the world had already operationally changed. When you measure that insight along with the fact that Saddam Hussein's consistent violation of UN resolutions that were pursuant to the ceasefire of the first Gulf War, UN Resolution 687, which includes support of terrorists, including Al Qaeda, albeit Saddam Hussein and his Ba'athist regime were not directly involved in the operational aspects of 9/11. Saddam Hussein very much provided organizational support to Al Qaeda and other Islamic fundamentalist terrorists. There's no doubt about that at all, and not for nothing continued to pursue his dumb D capability. I mean, the reason that Israel knew where to strike regarding the Alawite regime's clandestine nuclear reactor in 2014 was because of the intel we found in Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist headquarters after the toppling of Saddam Hussein. So as far as like again, some of the like Armin's not wrong again. Armin, you come in one hell of a weapon, man. I can't tell you how proud I am of you.
Aw.
No, I mean that. That's not meant to be flattering, right? I mean, you're coming a long way, not to like, oh, I'm the teacher. I'm just saying, like, you're juggling all this horrible shit you got to deal with, your friends and all the stuff they're dealing with in Iran, and yet you've continually maintained, I mean, behaviorally, like a sense of humility and humanity that most people don't maintain when not put under such pressure, as well as increased your, your operational capability. I mean, it's actually quite amazing. So in regards to what Armin was saying, where was I at? Damn. Oh, right. With regards to why there was instability, the majority of the instability stemmed from the fact we were delayed in the United Nations by would-be near competitors, both Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, the Chinese Communist Party, along with other actors, including those in NATO, that all had vested interest in keeping Saddam in power to the tunes of billions of dollars from back to oil concession for the oil for food program. And that subsequently allowed Saddam's time to decentralize his Fedayeen Saddam terror troops, center of gravity in the Republican Guard and the rest to meld them into the indigenous populace and wage a protracted insurgency campaign in the immediate aftermath of the conventional military phase of Operation Iraqi Freedom, which then provided an opportunity for regional hostile exogenous actors, specifically the Mullah regime, to flood in foreign fighters like Soleimani via Al Quds forces when they flooded across the border in Kirkuk and taught a lot of people like Al Qaeda in Iraq how to make bomb belts and V-bids to kill my fellow soldiers, which is in no insignificant manner why, like then President, well, President Trump in his first term killed Soleimani. So what's the whole short and skinny of that? The idea that somehow we should not have removed Saddam Hussein because he was somehow a stabilizing force is absolute horseshit, pushed by both like radical leftists and non-interventionists on the right, and does not hold up even to even a superficial level of analytical scrutiny when you know what the substantive element of the issue is. It's total bullshit.
All right,
Thank you,
let's
Jeffrey.
try to
And
go
thank you,
through.
Armin.
Let's thank you, thank you. Let's try to go through the list so that we could have finish everybody.
Thank you. This it feels like a mom and dad thing, and I don't have to be the mean mom when you're being like the good dad. You know.
I'm the dad. Okay, that's good.
Look at all of our babies in here. Okay,
Oh my god.
Johan, you're next.
All right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, my question is not related to what we discussed previously here, but it's about the historical artifacts. Okay. I remember it must have been like 2013 or 2014 when ISIS reached Palmyra, and they went up to these 5,000 years old statues and started smashing them with sledgehammers. And a good while back, I read that in 1979, after the revolution happened, the mullahs said that time starts today. Like there is nothing before. It doesn't count. And I just thought that maybe they did the same thing, like burnt books and ancient scriptures. And I just knew that there has to be so much of that in Iran. And today, and this is why I bring the question up today, I saw it was actually posted on the Discord in the news channel that they closed down a museum, maybe several museums, I don't know, at least one museum in Tehran until further notice. And people were worried that they would do this, that they would take these artifacts and either destroy them or steal them or ship them away somehow. So have they destroyed anything, or do they have them in the museums even at display? And what about like Persia police, if I'm saying that correct? I don't know where we have these Persia police more south, where we have these really awesome ancient stone carvings and stuff. What about all that? Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay,
wondering.
so it's very interesting because when you were asking me this, I wrote like no hand, I wrote Purse Police here to tell you about that. And then you mentioned it, even though I wanted to use that as a response to your question. So let me explain to everybody what the question is. So if people to give it some context. So, given that Islamists, when they are victorious, they invade somewhere or they get the government in their hand, they want to make it seem like everything has changed so much, everything is now Islamic, and everything now has to be abiding Islam, and everything before what is you know was wrong, right? And this, what you're describing, by the way, is the way of the prophet, right? So when the prophet came and declared his prophethood and eventually started ruling Arabia, they called the days before him Jahiliyyah, means the days of ignorance, right? And everything after it basically was like enlightenment, right? So everything before him, everything, the history of the whole world, like everything that was there before was basically ignorance, and now we're entering it. So when ISIS comes in and declares everything to be un-Islamic, and now there's a new way, and everything before this was wrong, that's the way of the prophet. When the Islamic Republic comes into power in 1979 in Iran, and declare the way they declare everything before them to be un-Islamic, and now everything is Islamic. That's also the way of the prophet, right? So ISIS was destroying these statues because these like ancient statues, because they considered them to be idol and gods in their opinion, and a challenge, like pretend gods, and a challenge to Allah, and shirk basically. So they have to be smashed as un-Islamic idols. And the Islamic Republic, now, here, you're asking if the Islamic Republic did something similar. And this shows the strength of the national identity of the Iranian people, because they tried and they couldn't. Because in the Islamic Republic, when it came to power, they wanted to bulldoze Persepolis. They wanted to bulldoze. They wanted to basically destroy the entire place and basically turn it into dust. And they couldn't, because that would be the end of them. And another similar thing is that they tried to get rid of the flag completely, right? They tried to have a flag that was like an ISIS flag, right? And somebody had to come convince them that, oh, the red is the, I don't know, Hussein, the green is Ali, I don't know, some bullshit Shia stuff. And they're like, no, we can't change it because this is actually Islamic, right? I mean, you can see now they're trying to even try to argue that the lion and sun is even Islamic. What I'm saying is that the national symbols and history of Iran is so tied into people's identity, like collective identity, that even the Islamic Republic could not get rid of them. They, like, Khomeini tried. Khomeini was completely against patriotism or nationalism. He was even against the idea of Iran as a concept. Like, he didn't like nation states as a concept. He was wanting to have the Islamic Ummah, not a nation state of Iran. Like, that was like meaningless to him. But the Iran Iraq War quickly made the Islamic Republic realize that there is no way of mobilizing Iranians in any direction without nationalism, without patriotic symbols. So what they did is, Khomeini originally tried to get rid of everything patriotic, but once they saw that this is too powerful of a force, within, ingrained within the Iranian people's, DNA. I mean, like, within the DNA of society, they realized that what they went on a mission to steal them as Islamic symbols one by one, right? So they tried to get rid of Nowruz, for example. They couldn't, right? That for 47 years they tried to basically get rid of ancient Persian holidays and replace it with Islamic ones. They managed to add them, but they were never, like, think about this. Think about the Islamic Republic with all of its control was not able to cancel Nowruz, even though they really wanted to, right? So the fact that what ISIS did is something that the Islamic Republic couldn't do with our symbol. I mean, unfortunately, they destroyed many areas of Persepolis. There are many items in our museums that they constantly steal and sell it to, foreign, what is it called, when people smugglers, right, and sell it like illegally into the dark market. Like, I was like, what do you call the people who smuggle? Oh, smugglers. Okay. Right. So 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 they sell it in the dark market. Like, there are different officials that basically take our national treasures and historical artifact and try to make a quick buck with it. So that is constantly happens, but their goal to completely come and destroy it. I mean, like many of the Shia traditions are attempts of, so you know how they're crazy, for example, Ashura, where they cut themselves and everyone is wearing black. This used to be actually something beautiful that was Persian, right? This was something Persian that was beautiful, and they turned it Shia and they made it into something like cultish, right? It was Siyavashun. It was this Siyavashun thing that was actually a very nice, beautiful ancient Persian ceremony. But a lot of the things that they do is competition with patriotic Iranian symbols, and they first try to destroy it. And if they can't destroy it, they try to claim that it's Islamic. And usually they can't destroy it. And so, for example, they try to destroy the lion and sun. After 47 years, it has come back in such a strength that they now try to claim that this is actually Ali, this is the Islamic symbol. They try to do that with so many other things, right? Does that even answer your question, or did I miss your question?
No, no, that really very interesting. Maybe something about these artifacts in the museum in Tehran. Otherwise, perfect.
Yeah, the artifacts. What I've heard is that items keep going missing. So I don't know, like, this the and they don't take proper care of them, right? Like they once they came into, so I don't know if you know this, but the first animation in history was made by Iranians. Is this, I don't know what do you call it. It is this thing that if that you spin it and you can see a deer running. So like it's an ancient artifact that is the first recorded and form of like animation, like something that is moving, right? And like if they brought it on TV, and they were so careless, like they were not wearing gloves, they were putting it, and people were like losing their minds, like, oh my god, this guy's gonna drop it. And even like when they started sitting there, for example, is in the British Museum, and the UK was lending it to the Islamic Republic to display it for a while. And when they were handing it over, you could see that the British people, they had like their gloves, white gloves, and everything in their hand, and they were so careful with it. And then when the officials for the Islamic Republic came, they just grabbed it with their bare hands, and everybody, and people were like, what the hell are they doing? And by the way, this is why I appreciate the British Museum holding on to these things, because we don't, right? Like people are like, oh my god, give it back. But yeah, they don't have any respect for our history, and they steal from our museums and stuff like that. So, but again, it would have been a lot worse if the strength of the national identity of the Iranians was not a force to reckon with. Like the Islamic takeover didn't. I mean, this has happened in our history so many times. Alexander came and invaded. We, but then eventually we Persianized our invaders. Okay, the Mongols, the Arabs came and they invaded. Eventually, the Persian culture dominated. Like they invaded with their armies, but eventually the Persian culture came back on top. The Mongols came, they invaded, they took over Iran, but eventually the Persian culture dominated and came on top. We weren't like other places where the Persian identity is so strong that even when we get invaded after a couple of years, it will resurface and basically not let that culture destroy it. For some reason, this culture and this identity is so tied to the land that no amount of invasions and attempts to destroy it will is successful.
Okay. So, just as a reminder, we've got about 30 minutes left. If you are on the list I'm about to read, please be ready with your question. We have Richard, Elad, Armin again, Eric, Shauna, and Roy with one written question for me to read. So, Richard,
Hi, thank you. Armin, I had a kind of a question for you. So this is really a propaganda counteraction question. Some of the regime propaganda directed against Crown Prince Pahlavi has been, besides the standard, autocrat nonsense. A lot of it I've noticed, especially the propaganda directed towards the Western audiences, is done from a racial perspective. They basically try to characterize the revolution and the Crown Prince's activities as Persian supremacy, trying to basically dominate the other minorities in Iran. I realize that's because, unfortunately, Western audiences have been conditioned to view all issues through a racial lens. But as far as counteracting that, besides obviously promoting the idea, very clear evidence demonstrating that the Crown Prince is not acting on behalf of the Persian plurality and is
Oh,
all groups in Iran.
so
Do you have any advice in terms of how to sort of counteract that propaganda?
yeah, but what evidence do they have of any form of Persian supremacy? Like, do they have any evidence?
This is the exact same propaganda they use. No, they have absolutely no evidence. It's the same kind of propaganda they use to convince people to support Hamas. They don't really need evidence. They just basically paint it as a racial issue, basically frame it as some kind of racial supremacy issue, and then they have probably a de facto base of people that sort of get on board with that don't need evidence.
Yeah, so Princess of Pahlavi and his team is obsessed with showing how, Kurdish representation, Azeri representation, Baluchi representation, Gilaki representation, Bakhtiari representation, Arab representation. Like they have gone out of their way. But Richard, I'm getting a lot of background from you, Richard, by the way. Sorry. There's like some really bad audio.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So, and if you look at their plan, the transition plan, it's also very much obsessed with trying to make sure that these groups are protected. And one of Princess of Pahlavi's four principles are equal individual rights, under one law, right? So equal individual rights for all Iranian citizens. So they don't just, I mean, the only counter to that I could give is there's not a single thing these people could point to that demonstrates that. Not a single. In fact, we have so much to show the opposite. And also, I don't even know what the Persian ethnicity is, to be honest. I don't think it even exists. We have Persian culture, we have Persian language. I mean, when it comes to ethnicities, we have Kurds, we have Azeris, we have Baluchis, and we have people who are not those. But we don't have like a Qom farce. Okay, the only we don't have a Persian ethnicity, dude. Like Iranians in this chat, we just have people who are not. We just have people who don't belong in any of these categories. I mean, we speak Persian, and the Persian culture is enjoyed by all of us, including the Kurds and Azeris and Gilekis and everybody else. But there is no ethnicity of Persians anymore, I think. Persian culture is something that belongs to all Iranians. I don't see any group of people come and say like we are Qom Pars, like as an ethnic groups, like identify as an ethnic group of Persians, like Qom Pars. People who celebrate Persian culture and language an identity, they consider themselves just Iranian, like Iranian, not like an ethnicity. So I don't even know what they're referring to. The only time I see people referring to the Persian ethnicity rather than the Persian language or culture are Marxist or separatist ethnic groups that are trying to say like, oh, Persian fascists, like, oh my god, the Persian fascists. So there's a minority of crazy, Marxist or separatist people who say, "Oh, Persian fascists. All Persian people are fascists," and honestly, nobody takes them seriously. Our ethnic groups don't take them seriously. They're pathetic. They're very small in number. And one way actually to demonstrate that these people are full of shit, by the way, Richard, if you want to respond to them, is that high number of Kurds, Azeri, Lors, Bakhtiari, Gileki, all ethnic groups of Iranians that support Princess of Pahlavi. Like there wasn't like in early January, there wasn't a single corner of Iran where people didn't come out and in millions in the streets. Like people didn't expect Tabriz to show up because they thought Tabriz is not for Pahlavi because they're like, I don't know, they have this Turkish identity. They came out in large numbers and shouted his name. People expected the Kurdish people not to come out and shout his name, and they came out in large numbers and shouted his name. Tell them this. Tell them, if you think that Princess of Pahlavi is bringing Persian fascism, you think you have been able to identify that against the Kurdish or the Azeri minority, you being able to identify that, and the Iranian Kurds haven't, the Iranian Azeris haven't, the Iranian Baluchis haven't. Do you really think that you know what Princess of Pahlavi is up to more than these minority ethnic groups that you're trying to protect, more than they do? Because they seem to be supporting Princess of Pahlavi. Are you like the savior from outside that is trying to come in and say that you know better than these people themselves? Because they seem to be supporting Princess of Pahlavi in large numbers. I mean, Nara here, for example, she's not. Nara, are you Qom Pars? Or like what ethnicity are you? Like I forgot what was you are
Um, no, I
Ar-
am I'm I'm an Armenian, and
Armenian. There you go.
yeah, I'm Armenian Iranian, and we have been living in Iran for about 600 years. So our culture
Yeah,
is much closer to Iranian culture than Armenian culture in Armenia, because they grew up
right.
with the Soviets. Like people my age, their parents and grandparents, they grew up under the Soviets. We grew up under
Yeah.
Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, and our cultures are completely different.
Yeah, and you support Princess of Pahlavi, right? Like for the record that is being recorded here, right?
100%. And so
Yeah.
does my entire
Okay. Yeah.
family, everybody that's in Iran, our
There you
community.
go.
We all support Prince Reza Pahlavi, yes.
Yeah, so why are you supporting, apparently according to these, the Persian fascism against you who doesn't belong into the Persian ethnicity, huh? Like, why are you doing that? Like, aren't
Well,
you?
I'm a Persian supremacist, so
Oh.
um,
Okay.
I,
Just
we
Richard, just go
mainly
tell them. Hmm.
our community supports Pahlavi because we truly thrived under the Pahlavi dynasty. We truly did. Just speaking for Armenians separately.
Yeah, Richard. The short answer is just go tell them to talk the vast majority of all of these ethnic groups who support Princess of Pahlavi. That's the answer.
yeah,
Thank you,
it's an
Naren.
excellent. I appreciate it, but I think you should be aware that a lot of these groups that we're talking to aren't going to be necessarily persuaded by actual evidence or logic. There was a fair amount of success convincing Americans that the Israel-Palestinian wars were likened to South African
Just,
apartheid, black segregation in this country, and that outside savior complex. Apparently, the regime knows to hit that nerve. Let's get PDS classified as an
right.
official order.
Right.
Thank you.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay, next we have Elad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a question, but before that, I'd just like to point out the irony about how so many people who are so worried about what's going to happen in between the different ethnicities in Iran are also the same people that are pushing multiculturalism with migrant and immigrant and illegal immigrants, and are also completely ignoring the fact that all of these cultures, all of these ethnicities in Iran have evolved next to one another, and no one is actually an immigrant. They're all like ancient peoples that have always evolved together.
Yeah,
That's one.
and also when they want to they want to make it seem like our kings are fascist, but if you look at our history, all our kings were not Persian. Like most, like did we have like what they consider the Persian ethnicity? Like if you keep going back, like we don't have, they were all from these different ethnicities. They were all our kings were from these what they call minority ethnicities. So like, oh, like even Pahlavi is not full Persian, right? So yeah, they're going. How are they going to be a Persian fascist, but they're not even Persian, like ethnic wise? Yeah, but go on.
Yeah.
I
So
I'm sorry, can I just chime in for 2 seconds? It's crazy that they're, like, yeah, worried about, like, tension between the different ethnic groups of Iran, but they think that they can impose a one-state solution on the Israelis and the Palestinians, and it would just be, like, just multi-ethnic, peaceful.
Yeah.
So I have a question. I saw a lot of reports, and I actually see more of them now, that there are new demonstrations in the streets of Iran, and I wondered if you have any news on that and what's actually
Say
happened.
again, sorry.
I see a lot of reports from different outlets that the demonstrations in Iran in the streets are renewed, and I'm
The-
wondering if you can
what is
tell me
what
anything
is
about it.
being renewed right now is chanting from the windows and rooftops. That's
But
what's being renewed.
actually saw that there are
Really?
demonstrations in several cities in the streets. I don't know
Oh,
if it's
okay.
true. So
Those are cheloms, I think. Are you talking about the the memorial? Like, so let me correct me if I'm wrong, unless you have seen something that I haven't seen. But what's happening right now is after the massacre of early January, there we now are getting to the days that is 40 days after their mass slaughter. Like for different people it's going to be different days, but in Iran we have this tradition that 40 days after you die we do another ceremony to remember you, and it's called chehellom. So for people who the Islamic Republic kills during many different protests, it has now become a tradition that their chehellom, the 40th day ceremony for remembering them, turns into a protest itself against the government, right? So what you might be seeing, if I'm correct, or like let me know if I'm correct, is a lot of these remembrance memorial ceremonies at the 40th day for the people who were slaughtered are now turning into an act of defiance against the regime. Is that what you're seeing?
It's just they scream in the streets, right? But they're like from their cars and stuff like that. I don't understand what I'm seeing, so that's why I'm asking
Oh,
you.
then you might be seeing something that I haven't, and you might be ahead of me because I haven't seen that.
It's
I haven't
in
seen that.
Abadan.
Abadan, I haven't seen that. You might be ahead of me on the news, or maybe it's something different.
Well,
But
it's actually from like 20 to 10, so it's like an hour and a half ago.
okay, this might be a breaking news that hasn't reached me yet. Then I haven't. I'm
Okay.
looking at my feed. Oh, I'm looking at my feed and I'm not seeing it. So if I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure if you're right, this will blow up. Like this is not something that will go unnoticed. Okay, so if you're right, we will be talking about it probably
Okay,
today or
thank you.
tomorrow. Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry if you've seen something that I haven't seen. Oh, let me see. Actually,
No, it's
oh,
fine. I
breaking! I'm
just
seeing
wanted
something.
to
I'm seeing something.
verify
I'm
it.
seeing something from an hour ago. Breaking! The regime in Iran has just cut off the internet in Abadan. It's all kicking off again. The last footage we got showed the city was out in the streets chanting "Death to Khamenei." You're right. You're right. This just happened an hour, like just a few hours ago. Death to
Yeah.
Khamenei and using car horns to protest. IRGC is going to deploy armed forces to crush these people. Okay.
Can I get the link in
Yes,
the
you're
chat?
right. You saw something. This just happened a few hours ago in Abadan. Okay. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
letting me know.
It's
Thank you for letting me know.
an Hebrew chat in Israel, so I would send it, but it's like not.
No, I just
Armin,
saw.
can you
Yeah,
go ahead and link that, Armin, in the chat? We've got some people who'd like it, please.
yeah. This is what I'm seeing. Interesting. All right, you could remove me from the list so that more people could speak. Okay. So,
Okay,
guys, I posted
Shauna.
the link in the chat. Yeah, sure. So, guys, Abadan and Abdanan are different things. Okay, those Abdanan was a city. Yeah, a smaller city. Shana?
So I don't see her right now with us. So what we'll do is move on to Roy. Maybe she's
I
reconnected.
see her. I see her. She's
Oh, I see.
actually for me. She's right next to you. Okay. Okay, it's okay. Let's go. Let's go to Roy. Hi, Roy. Hi.
Hey, I have a question for you, Armin. I'm like, my question is, have you no shame, Armin? Have you no shame that you are supporting Reza Pahlavi, that he doesn't have 100% of every people in Iran? I am sorry. How can you go? How can you like seriously? It's
Oh,
insane. It's insane. Like Hussein Amanpour, just put him in his place. Just look at her, just putting him in his place. I'm sorry. I'm
right.
sorry. I line up the mood. Just line up the mood a little bit, guys. I love you so much. I do have a serious question though. I scared you a little bit. I see that.
No, no, no. I kind of knew. I kind of knew, but that was good. That was good. That was good. I was
Okay,
ready. I
yeah.
was ready for it. Well, I mean, I didn't know, but I was like 50-50. That's why I was. That's why I held back. I was
I
ready
was
for it to
scared.
go either way. Yeah. I saw.
Yeah,
Oh my
you
god,
guys,
that's
listen.
good to know.
I love you guys. I'm listening here a lot. I'm some, I haven't spoken, but I do a lot of content. I do a lot of Israel Iranian content. I also do. I did a song. Everybody who knows, I did a song called "Fatwa on the Ayatollah." So if you guys want to listen to it, it's on Spotify. And so, yeah, I have a question. What is going on with Turkey right now? Because I think it's getting very, very serious to a point where Syria as well has been pushing. And I think that, mashallah, after Iran is going to be free, we're going to have a new problem, which is the apparently, I think it's Turkey and Saudi Arabia maybe getting closer and closer together to a point of like, you know, banging friends. I don't know, but that's like it sounds to me like there are right up that alley. What do you think?
So yeah, I mean, I think Erdogan. I mean, I think Iran being free is good for Turkey, but bad for Erdogan, right? I mean, as an Iranian, I think I hope that once Iran is free, we could also go liberate Turkey, because Turkey was very much responsible for Reza Shah being inspired with the modernization that he started in Turkey. And we owe Turkey with the legacy of Ataturk is something that the Iranians very much benefited from. And it would be very nice if Turkey could go back on the direction of the vision of Ataturk. But Erdogan, obviously, this is going to be a very big challenge, because I personally think that if the Islamic Republic falls, I think this, and I think they also think that is going to inspire a wave of anti-Islamism all across, the region. And I think a lot of people, especially in Turkey, will have the highest potential of anti-Islamic activism inspired by what's happening in Iran if this happens, right? And also, Turkey's membership in NATO and its relationship with the EU relies heavily on the idea that you really need us in the east. So if Iran becomes free and Pahlavi returns into power, and we have the Cyrus Accords, and we have peace with Israel and alliance with the US, I mean, I think the many European countries would also suddenly feel that this is a better, wealthier, and more stable partner in the region. It would be a major challenge to Erdogan, and it would be both Washington and Brussels might shift their focus, away from and investments to Tehran. And especially, so Turkey will lose its status as, region's primary diplomatic hub potentially, and a major. Turkey relies a lot on tourism, and I really do think that it's going to be hard to compete with a free Iran on tourism. I think a lot of the people who were trying will have considered going to Turkey will pick Iran once Iran is free. Iran has a lot more to offer when it comes to tourism than Turkey, and that's a major source of revenue that they would be losing if Iran becomes free and Pahlavi returns. There's also the idea that Turkey's soft power right now really much relies on the idea that we are the leaders of the Islamic world. And I think the major hit to the Islamic world after the Islamic Republic will also be a major hit to the branding of Islamism as a whole, which is something that Turkey right now really much relies on.
I think there's also one of the major problems is that one of the biggest reasons, at least somebody I read, said that it's because Turkey is holding on to a lot of like Syrian refugees, and Turkey is kind of like telling Europe, if you don't want to mess with those, like have those all of those refugees entering your country, you need to keep supporting us in Turkey. And I
Yes.
have a feeling that the sentiment in Turkey, I've been to Turkey multiple times as an Israeli, and the sentiment was very secular back like 10, 15 years ago. It feels like it's being very radicalized right now in the streets. So I don't think like the problem is just Erdogan. I think the problem is just it's starting to be in the streets as well. And
Yeah,
I
but
agree with you about
but
Iran.
where is that
I
coming
don't
from? It's
believe.
coming from Erdogan. Like, given that it wasn't like this before, right? Like, it's
Yes,
coming
I
from the
agree.
top down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Go ahead.
agree. No, and also I'm telling you that I agree with you.
Uh, One thing else that we need to add is the ethnic element here. Okay, we're talking Islam a lot, but Turkey really wants to unite the Turkic world. So the Erdogan soft power has two swords. The Islamic Ummah, I'm the leader of the Islamic Ummah, and I'm also what's one sword with their soft power, and another sword of their soft power is that I'm the leader of the Turkic world. So Turkic world includes like the Azeris, the Turks, the Turkmens, Turkmenistan, for example. All of this united as one Turkish empire, right? Like, I mean, metaphorically empire, right? So a nationalist Iran will be much more, will be see this as a challenge, as a threat, way more than an Islamic republic. You know what I mean? So, and a nationalist Iran would be a lot more well equipped to deal with the threat of ethnic tensions around its borders. Like, if your country's government doesn't even focus on its national identity and has Islamic identity, it's not going to be able to mobilize people in a way to defend itself against this use of Turkish identity to infiltrate its borders. But if it was a nationalist country where people were in line with their own government, like Iranian people are nationalists, the regime is Islamic. So it's really hard to collaborate between, impossible to collaborate. But when the Iranian people are nationalists and the government is also nationalist and patriotic, then the Iranian people and the government will be in line with each other to defend our borders. So that will be a much tougher wall to crack by this attempt of a Turkic like cultural or ethnic invasion.